It's unschooling time. Now get in the dirt and play in it. What? It's science, you normies. I mean, at this point, what's gonna be next, huh? Unparenting? Leaving your 4-year-old alone at home for 12 hours at a time because you're trying something new and different. Something unique that no other parents are willing to take the risk of. Yeah, and for good reason, Emma. Now you've come home and you see that little 4-year-old Braxton has shoved the toaster inside of the toilet because it's a science project. And the neighbors have called CPS. So what now? What now? We are now seeing the rapid rise of pseudo-intellectual influencer parents who truly believe that they have the secret to life all figured out. For starters, a lot of these unschooling methods that are being spoken of are actually not within the best interest of the child. We don't teach our children anything. Yeah, we can tell! Such as, there is a growing Facebook group dedicated to helping parents take their kids out of school and is mostly based on an author's take on unschooling, Dana Martin. Dana released first of her many books back in 2009. These books are around unschooling, what to expect when you unschool your children, and what the revolution looks like with unschooling. The book is almost $200 and has some pretty bad reviews. One person even going as far as to say that they couldn't believe they spent all of this money on such trash. I expected a book that seriously addresses the need for educational reform. Instead, I read about letting your kids do whatever they feel like. Let them stay up until midnight playing video games. It feeds their soul. And apparently, within this book, it says that even if you are to pay for a lesson for your child and they're not really doing anything, learning anything after 10 minutes, you're not supposed to push them to persevere. You're simply just supposed to let them run the show and have the kids be their own teachers. Pretty much. But just you wait, it gets so much worse.
So we don't teach our children anything. Everything that they learn is in response to either their interests or their questions.
Then those children are going to learn absolutely nada. You are not only setting these children up to fall flat on their faces anytime they are to leave the house and step into the real world, but to further keep them ignorant to the world around them. Look, I love the fact that with unschooling and homeschooling, it gives children the opportunity to take up learning on certain interests that they have. But that should never entail having the child try to learn how to read by themselves. Because yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these unschooled children don't know how to read. And you thought iPad parents were bad? Unschooling parents is a whole different realm. It is a total disservice to the children that you are painting yourself as this cool mum who lets her kids do whatever they want to do, when really you are going to run into the problem of these kids being unable to catch up to their future peers. Learning to read at 13, learning to write at 15. And unfortunately, it is a reality for many unschooled children that they didn't learn these basic life skills till much later in life, and it embarrasses these kids. These kids carry a lot of shame because they feel like they are a burden to society because they don't function on the same level as everybody else. And it sucks because it's not like these kids are at a disadvantage to their peers. They're neurotypical kids. They can very much well do all of these things, but their parents just refuse it for some reason.
We have no curriculum. We have no school hours. We really just respond whenever they want to know something and do our best to make sure they really get it.
Wait, so not only are you telling us that the children have absolutely no structure whatsoever, but that you are relying on literal children to school themselves, to teach themselves how to read, how to write. They have to wait until a question pops up into their heads before you get up off your booty and answer these questions. And look, it's not that it's necessarily a negative thing to want to learn exclusively about your interests, but that's how you go through life not knowing much and just being stuck in this constant echo chamber of your own thoughts, of your ignorance. We do our best to make sure they really get it. I'm sorry, but that statement alone is one of the biggest waving red flags that I have heard in a while. Your best is not a professional's best. You're letting your children run the show. And I mean, that's kind of what unschooling means when you just focus on what the child's interests are, which I hate that stuff, man. Look, I am as much of an anti-conformist as the next person, okay? But you can't exactly be an anti-conformist when it comes to reading and writing. How, unfortunately, that is something that we have to globally conform to. No matter where you come from, what culture, like, it's actually such fake hippie I don't care.
And my big fear about free schooling was that if my kids only went towards what they were interested in, saving all of their real estate only for things they're interested in, not cramming it with anything necessary, I was concerned that they would never be interested in things like reading and writing and math.
I find it really hard to believe that this TikToker was oh so concerned with this when she did not take the stance on teaching them how to read. It's probably because not even this TikToker is equipped with the patience, the knowledge, and the understanding that, yeah, it does take time. It does take a lot of time to teach children these things. That's why there's structure of schooling, so that information really sticks in your brain. Especially with being a child, their brains are really spongy and malleable at that point in their lives. So it's essential to teach them these really annoying, like monotonous things so it sticks with them for the rest of their lives. Because as you grow older, you become more set in your ways. You're like, I don't really need to do this. I've been doing this, that, and the third my entire life, and I turned out fine.
Did you really though?
But let me guess, they don't know how to do any of these things.
My son's 6, and it took some patience and not comparing myself to other moms, but this is his book. Look at this. Lamp, egg, jar, lion. This is him doing this by himself.
I actually am lost for words. He is 6 and is using an entire page for random words. One random word at that. I do not believe in people comparing themselves to others because we are all on our own different journeys and our timelines look so much different from other people. You have somebody into their early 20s who knows what their purpose in life is and what they want their career to look like. And then you have somebody who's in their 40s and now they've just discovered it. It's like we're not on the same roads as each other. However, there is an exception for this. In terms of a 6-year-old not being able to put a sentence together by himself, you should be seeing if your mum friends have this same kind of problem. If their kids are on par with your 6-year-old's inability to read and write properly. And I'm not saying at 6 that you need to be absolutely perfect, no, but by the time I was 6, I was writing sentences. I was writing words. But it seems as though this is all quite common for unschoolers. And it also seems that this 6-year-old is not capable enough to teach himself how to read and write. So that should be your indication to go and teach him. I really don't understand what it is with these parents who are just so adamant on refusing to teach their children basic life skills. Why do you not want them to know how to read and write?
Copying down words from other places, asking us more. Same with addition. Mom, what's 7 plus 5? It will come at the right time.
Yeah, but what's the plan if it doesn't work out that way? I am a huge believer in the fact that everything happens for a reason. The universe won't ever give you things that you just cannot handle. But this, reading and writing, isn't a spiritual matter that would just suddenly hit you in the middle of the night and you're awakened to this experience of knowing how to suddenly read and write. That's not going to happen. You have to teach people this stuff. You have to teach kids this stuff. Otherwise, the future's looking pretty bleak, bro. Imagine you have to go onto YouTube because your parent was so incompetent that now you have to watch tutorials on how to read and write. You have to rely on social media to teach you these things. And that, unfortunately, is what a lot of these kids' futures are gonna look like. Because a lot of unschooling kids have come forward and basically been like, I feel like a burden. I feel so ashamed that I'm not functioning at the same level as my peers. I feel so stupid. I feel so far behind, but it isn't their fault. It is really not fair on these children that they have to wait until the right time in order to know how to read and write. How about you use your critical thinking skills and realize, oh, wait, it's going to take somebody teaching him how to read for him to read. One question that I would like to ask this mum is, how do you think that everybody ever, going hundreds of years back, how do you think they know how to read and write? It's probably because they were taught by somebody, maybe a teacher, maybe an authoritative figure. It sounds like to me so far, at the very least, unschooling is just parental incompetence.
But if you do not like this idea of sending your kids away for 40 hours a week and then wondering why they have no energy to do anything else, if you are not into your kids conforming, trust that you can follow their interests and they will learn everything they need to learn, not what other people need them to learn.
I'm gonna be very honest. When I was going to school, I didn't come home absolutely exhausted and tired out my mind because of the schoolwork and because of what I was being taught. No, it was because kids are absolutely ruthless. I was being relentlessly bullied and bad stuff was constantly happening to me at school. So what do you think I'm gonna come home feeling like and presenting as? Very moody, very annoyed, very tired, very exhausted from being treated as if I was some worthless being on a day-to-day basis. I didn't throw up before going to school because of the schoolwork. I did it because schools do absolutely nothing to help and support kids who are having that kind of stuff happen to them. Because unfortunately, it takes until some kid offs themselves for schools to actually take it a little bit seriously. But even then, they still don't. They just do a whole performative assembly. Oh, rest in peace to this kid who offed themselves because of our incompetence. So, you know, I agree with you there in that term, but that's not really what she's speaking about here. She's literally just speaking about their teachings at school. You can very well still nurture your child's interests and what they want to do in life whilst they are being schooled, whether it be in a public schooling system or it's distance education, such as homeschooling. And just like I said before, I am anti-conformist too, but it doesn't really sound all that anti-conformist to be hindering your children's education, to be hindering your child's future. That fake anti-conformist BS. Unfortunately, it's this TikToker being misinformed and then going on to misinform her children on top of that. Now, just before we get into the comments on this video, we have a TikTok here from a child who was unschooled and how it hindered their future. So to anybody who is skeptical on unschooling and its principles, you have every right to be.
So I was unschooled. I don't support unschooling, and I've gotten hate from parents who unschool their kids for not supporting it. Here's the thing though, I was unschooled, and you probably weren't. So here's why I don't support it. As a kid, I spent my childhood learning to play chess, circuit boards, knit, fun stuff like that. But I didn't want to learn to read, and I didn't want to learn to do math because that was boring. So in the rules of the philosophy, my mom didn't make me. So by the time I hit middle school, all the other kids were making fun of me for not knowing how to read. My mom signed me up for a junior high literature class in my homeschool group, and I didn't know how to do anything. To prepare for the class, I had to teach myself how to read because my mom wouldn't. I did this by watching YouTube videos and figuring out that they were saying the name of the video in the video and then figuring out what the words were. For high school, I decided to go to public school because I was not getting the education I deserved. And guess what? I immediately started failing. I didn't have the years of prior education building me up to prepare me for the level of work I had. I was kicked out before I got to graduate.
Now, many people were very much disturbed by the unschooling parent videos, leaving comments like, my parents ruined my life doing this. I have never been able to catch up. I will never be able to live the life I wanted to. Have a friend who's 45 and still can't read or write properly, like elementary level. He never went to school and parents were lenient with homeschooling just like her. And people think that that won't happen to their kids. It will, babes. It will, and you're so lucky if it doesn't.
Day 2 of unschooling, and we're at the park learning how to have fun. But before you get your panties in a wad, listen. Yes, we're going to be doing reading and writing and math and maybe science, but it's not going to look the same as traditional public school.
I couldn't possibly imagine how you would be teaching your kids reading and writing and math much differently than public schools would teach them. Other than the fact it's probably pretty much the same way that the first lady that we reacted to is teaching her kids how to read, write, and do maths. You know, you just gotta do it all by yourself, because apparently knowing all the facts about rocks is going to be more helpful going throughout life than reading. Like, what? Are the kids all gonna have one journal each and they have to sit down for 60 seconds a day writing one word that pops up into their mind, and then there you go, you're all done for the day, kids? That you just got schooled today, you can go and do whatever you want, you wrote egg, well done.
It's going to be different. There's so many comments in my comment section about, well, what if they want to be a doctor or a lawyer? And I think I've already mentioned this before one time already, but like the likelihood of my kids wanting to do something that they don't see that I'm normalizing is very slim. On top of, I'm very proactive inside of my profession and my career of being an entrepreneur.
I think I'm starting to realize something with these unschooling parents. It's that they want their children to be an exact clone of them and have no real autonomy over their lives. It's very strange to me to hear this lady say that her kids are not going to want to be doctors or lawyers because it's not something they see. Rather, they see their mum being an entrepreneur, which I'm already very skeptical about, because anyone and everybody on social media calls themselves entrepreneurs, but all they do is shill some MLM product or try to sell as many courses as they can to insecure and vulnerable people. So no, you can't fool me. What anyone with children should be doing, whether you're unschooling them, homeschooling them, or they're going to a traditional public school, is to encourage them to be whoever they want to be and follow the paths in life that make sense to them. Follow their life's purpose. They don't have to follow in your footsteps and be an entrepreneur as well, because apparently that's the only way to be successful in life. Let me just tell you, it isn't. It's very unfair to paint this picture that you're a cool mom and you let your kids do whatever they want because they have autonomy over their minds and their bodies, but then having expectations that they should be doing what you do in the future. Yeah, I call bullshit here.
They're likely going to follow that path because they're going to see how successful. I'm also going to teach them the right way. How many doctors and lawyers and, you know, other professions do you see where they're literally in debt?
Nope. No. Look, if you have this big, grand secret to life just all figured out, you've unlocked the code, and you're oh so successful, then how come I don't know your name? How come I've never seen you before? Why are you not on Bill Gates' you money? Because yes, I took a look into what this TikToker does for a living, and it's pretty much just shilling MLM products, weight loss products at that. Like, congratulations, you've cracked the code, quote unquote, when you haven't, because obviously the weight loss industry is absolutely massive, because there's millions of people every single day trying to find the quickest and easiest ways to lose weight. So they're going to listen to some idiot on social media who thinks they know what they're talking about, but they don't. They're tricking really insecure and vulnerable people, much like I was talking about before, and then it just happens. Selling hunger suppressants isn't exactly the career choice that is so much better than being a lawyer or a doctor. My head is going to combust and I'll be undramatic queen. Like, what are you saying, bro?
And most of these people are miserable. Most of them. I don't know that I've seen a doctor or a lawyer that's like so happy and, like I said, not in debt.
This woman not only sounds incredibly ignorant, but a little bit stupid at that, might I say. My best guess is that this lady has never actually met doctors or lawyers before, because how could you possibly say that they are all miserable because they're all in debt? You actually don't know that for sure. You are also also not in debt forever just because you choose a profession like being a doctor, like being a lawyer. In fact, you can very much well go into debt not having a career like being a doctor or a lawyer because it's always guaranteed money. However, being an entrepreneur, I mean, not always in demand. Remember when entrepreneurs used to be those people on Shark Tank investing into businesses that would make them loads back later on in time? But now it's just somebody who's a part of an MLM or selling courses to people online that once again are vulnerable and insecure. Like, wow, all right. And it's the doctors and the lawyers that are miserable. Sure.
And that's my goal with my kids, is I don't want them to experience being in debt. I'm going to teach them finances and money. And yeah, you do learn that shit in school, but how many of you guys actually utilized it and learned it in a real world way? And so day 2, unschooling, we are going to the library, maybe some thrift stores to find some books just to read. We're going to make it a point in our nighttime routine to read every single night. So read, writing, math, and just doing it in different ways than just sitting down as you normally would in public school. So follow me.
Look, I'll give this TikToker this. At the very least, she is trying, as she says, to teach her kids how to read by having them read a book whilst they're in bed. And that's already leagues better than the first woman who said that she will just let her kids wait until the right time for them to learn how to read by themselves. And that is saying a lot. Radical unschooling is what is being presented a lot here, right? Letting the kids do whatever they want and run the show, and you just do essentially nothing. That is when I stumbled upon a Facebook group, Radical Unschooling, which has various highly concerning posts to say the very least. What do you do when unschooling doesn't work? And by doesn't work, I mean like a 12-year-old who can't read. Well, he can read a little, but not enough to be able to properly function as an adult. He has no desire to practice or improve. Oh my God, when my actions have consequences? It seems that refusing education to children does have lasting consequences that not even you as a parent could ever fix. The kid is now 12. He's coming to a point in life where he's probably endlessly frustrated at himself for not being able to do something so basic that his friends are able to do. Like, I could imagine that this 12-year-old is going through a lot because his friends may be bullying him like, really, dude, you can't read? We all can. What are you, like in preschool? What's going on here, mate? Reading is something that should have been taught to him by this big age, especially if he is fully capable of doing so, which in a lot of these posts, these kids are just neurotypicals. So they already have these obvious advantages. Way to go on making these children deal with such burdens like this. It's probably taking a deep toll on his mental health, struggling with feeling like he is a burden simply because the person who was supposed to have their best interests at heart actually never did, and instead acted upon their own internal agendas. Unschooling, as we've seen thus far, seems to be extremely lazy parenting and a threat to a child's education. It seems as though a lot of these unschooling parents are under the assumption that the public schooling system is trying to indoctrinate their children. Okay, so you think that your child is going to believe certain things, so then what's your excuse by not teaching these children absolutely anything? Because first, it was wanting to nurture the child's interests. At first, it was focusing on the fact that having a strict curriculum probably isn't best for the children, but now it's because the schools are trying to brainwash and indoctrinate your kids. Like, what is the truth here? Genuinely, what's the truth? And it's such a common occurrence with unschooled children not knowing how to read or write. Why is this something that unschooling parents are so dead against? Is it a matter of if the kids start to read and write, they will discover how wrong their parents really are, how much of a teacher they should not be whatsoever?
But my children will never see a public school. I did go to public school, and I can say that I did not learn a single thing to help me in the real world.
It is such a common thing with these radical unschooling parents to spout this sentiment constantly. So you didn't get taught how to read and write or socialize with other people, even people that are pretty much opposite to you, learn about the history of our world. All these things very much so help you out in the real world. And yes, whilst we can acknowledge the fact that the public schooling system has a plethora of problems, all right, and many critiques to be had, I'm not sure if this is necessarily the right way to be going about things, but I guess let's hear her out.
Other than the fact that I chose to go to a tech school while I was in high school.
And what's that? It's another school where you get to learn things. What a joke, honestly. Notice how you had the autonomy to go ahead and get education and go to different schools in order for you to find your life's purpose. Yet your children will never see a public school because they didn't teach you how to do taxes or wash the dishes. Yappers, do we proceed with this? I don't know if I can. I don't know if I have the brain power for today. Honestly, it.
And that taught me or started my journey as a graphic designer.
Okay, I am really confused at this point, so maybe somebody in the comments could help enlighten me, maybe explain this to me, and help me understand why it was okay for unschooling parents to go get the education that they wanted to get, go to school to attain knowledge that they wanted to have, but their children aren't allowed to. Like, where is the logic there? I don't get it.
Everything else about life I have learned on my own. And I can confirm that my 7-year-old knows more now as a 7-year-old than I have known up until this point.
Okay, then prove it. It seems that you got an Einstein or Charles Babbage on your hands. Let's see.
He knows as much as I know as a 29-year-old.
Then it mustn't be all that much, considering that you believe that the public schooling system, despite you being a participant, is a crock of shit.
He drops facts about minerals and animals and all the things that I didn't even know or learn. Because in public school, you're learning to pass a test. You're not learning to gain knowledge.
This statement is categorically incorrect, exception being that maybe her school wasn't up to scratch in teaching her how minerals and animals work. But I promise you, if you pay attention enough, there is a lot of knowledge that you can gain by going to school. Yes, going to school isn't for everybody, but that doesn't mean that you should just forfeit all of your parental responsibilities and not teach your kids very basic things. No, a 7-year-old should not go at his own pace learning how to read and write, because he will go at his own pace, all right? He will never learn. Ever.
It's not that you unschool so that you're not doing school. Life is school. You're forever in school. You're forever learning. When they learn how to wash the dishes, that's school. When they learn how to ride a bike, that's school. When he's asking me how to spell certain words, that's school. When we're doing books at bedtime, that's school.
Why, yes, Miss Obvious, you are a student in this life, in the next one, and the one after that. You never stop learning in life, even after school. Period. And anyone who says different and that they know it all is just coming from pure ignorance. The problem is the fact that there are so many children being unschooled and having basic education withheld from them because their parents have a very weird attitude towards their children being taught basic things. Because apparently children have the capabilities to be able to teach themselves how to read and write. If that really were the case, why does school exist? If that's the case, then many kids around the world would have been able to do that by themselves by now, but they can't. Why can't they? Because they need someone to teach them. I'm sorry to say this, okay? But these unschooling parents sound very uneducated, and that is probably where the problem lies.
And he's working out with me. That's school. School is literally everywhere. School is not just writing words on a piece of paper. School is not taking tests. Learning is literally all around us, and I have the privilege as a stay-at-home mom, as an entrepreneur, to teach my kids how to live life and not just go to a public school to be put in the system and to basically be taught how to be an employee.
Here we go again. So you're an entrepreneur and you obviously have life all figured out. And nobody can tell you otherwise because you're an entrepreneur and not a stinky lawyer with a miserable, sad life. I actually went onto this TikToker's Linktree and saw that she was selling design packs. She's selling her own graphic designs. How was she able to learn how to do graphic design to sell the graphic designs? Because she went to tech school to learn how to do graphic design. And that is what pisses me off the most, is that she's bagging schooling and she's making a mockery of it when it's like, well, your career is literally being a graphic designer. Where did you learn that from? It's just extremely annoying hearing her say all of these things while she had to go to school in order to attain the career that she has today. I have two daughters, 10 and 11. They have been unschooled, can barely read, and I've heard and read that this can be okay, but it's gotten to be an issue lately because they don't really care to try to learn. Then the poster proceeds to state that they only want positive comments from women who are understanding of sacred feminine energy. I'm sorry, but there is no positive approach that you could take to a parent's neglect of their children's basic life skills. Yes, it is a basic life skill that you learn in school, how to read and write. Like, I know so many of these unschooling parents love to say that you don't learn anything in school that you can use in the real life, but you do. You do. What's 2 + 2? Yep. How do you say the? Can you read? If a parent shows their child no urgency or interest in teaching their child said skill, then why should the child have any interest or urgency themselves? Isn't the whole thing about unschooling to have the kids be learning things about their interests? So if their interest is not reading, then why are you so worried for? Exactly, because it's a basic life skill. Like, oh my God, really? The stupidity is eating me alive. I don't know, dude. This was all just so annoying to me because seeing the rise of this on TikTok is very stark, considering education is a really important thing to have in life. It opens up so many doors. And unfortunately, when these kids come to realize that they want something much bigger and much greater in life, they will have this huge gap that is missing. Like, they will carry around this shame and this embarrassment and feel like a burden, all because their parents took this fake hippie approach to life. Like, I don't get it. What is happening here? Is this TikTok just being TikTok? But apparently unschooling has been a thing that's been around for many years, but is just now being popularized on TikTok because of some certain TikTokers' really radical approaches to schooling. So with all of that being said, everybody, are you somebody who has unfortunately been a child to unschoolers? Let me know down the comments section below, because I would love to start the conversation around this. I know already the conversation has been around, okay, but Drama Queen has joined the chat and you can too. So with all of that being said, everybody, thank you so much for joining another Yappening at Yappersville. Your residency is so appreciated, dude. You're awesome. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes over the weekend. I did get my tattoo, new chain, same shackles. It is a Suicide Boys song, and in another video I will explain why I got this, because it means more than the world to me. Take care of yourselves, and most of all, love your selves.